Karen didn't just hijack my backyard, she hijacked my identity, my grill, and tried to turn me into the poster boy for her HOA Cookout scam. I was supposed to host a quiet barbecue for 6. Instead, I ended up feeding 60 strangers, being accused of chili warfare and turning my entire block into a viral cautionary tale. But here's the thing. When someone tries to steal your weekend, your wings, and your dignity, you don't argue. You bring the heat. I was woken up not by my alarm clock, not by my dog Max, but by the sound of a parrot screaming BBQ or bust from somewhere in my backyard. At first, I thought I was dreaming, maybe a weird hybrid of Top Chef and Jurassic Park. But when I opened the blinds, I nearly choked on my own breath. There were at least 30 people on my lawn, some standing, some already setting up chairs, and one particularly confident guy hammering in a pop-up tent like he was building a prep station on Hell's Kitchen. A toddler in a Grill Daddy onesie was licking a plastic fork. Someone else was waving a folding table over their head like they'd just looted a Walmart. And then, leading this culinary cult like she was parting the Red Sea, came Karen. Karen, with her oversized sunglasses, blush pink blazer, and that damned HOA clipboard strapped to her wrist like it contained the nuclear codes. She wore a Bluetooth headset, a scarf with flames on it, ironically, and the smile of someone who thought she'd just saved the neighborhood from starvation. "Good morning, Lucas. We're so excited," she chirped as she walked past my stunned expression, not waiting for a response. She clapped her hands like a cheerleader on espresso. "Let's set the drinks by the garden gnome. Food station under the tree. Oh, and someone bring out the grill master's chair. My grill master's chair, the one I got for Father's Day. The one I was planning to sit in, alone, with a beer, ribs, and 5 friends, not 5 families." I stepped out onto the patio in my slippers, still half asleep and entirely unarmed for this madness. "What the hell is going on?" I asked no one in particular. A woman in a pineapple print sundress handed me a tray of coleslaw and said, "We brought extras, just like the flyer said." I stared at the tray like it was evidence in a crime scene. "What flyer?" I muttered. That's when Karen turned, lifted her clipboard like a magical staff, and declared, "The flyer I made for today's HOA Summer Welcome Bash. Didn't you see the group post? We titled it, Lucas's Legendary Cookout." My brain glitched. "You named it after me?" I croaked. "Of course. People trust you with wings. You're like a local celebrity," she beamed. "Besides, you're always cooking anyway. I figured it was time to share your talents." I opened my mouth to respond, but a group of teenagers blasted music from a Bluetooth speaker, and a voice shouted, "Karaoke starting at noon." Another yelled, "Someone bring the inflatable pool." A kid zipped past me holding ketchup like a trophy. A dude I'd never met set down a crate of sodas next to my smoker. Max, my dog, stood by the screen door, eyes wide like he just saw a ghost ride a lawnmower. This wasn't a block party. This was an invasion. And I had clearly become the unwilling host of the year, all without signing a single RSVP. The kicker? I still hadn't had coffee. I could feel my blood pressure rise faster than the internal temp of a brisket on full flame. And that's when I spotted it, right by the sidewalk, taped to a lamppost. A full-color flyer with my face photoshopped onto a cartoon chef's body holding a spatula like a sword. The headline read, "Free BBQ at Lucas's. No RSVP needed. Just bring the heat." There was even a subtitle, "Home of the sweet chili wings that melt your soul." Underneath that, a warning in Comic Sans, "Limited supplies. Come early. Bring your own sides." And then the final insult, "Pets welcome. Vegan options, maybe." I stood there blinking at my own caricature, my own lawn overrun, and my own Saturday melting into chaos. That's when I knew something deep in my soul had snapped. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was war, grill war, and Karen had just started it. So there I was, standing in my own yard, watching an impromptu HOA-sponsored invasion unfold like a suburban version of the Normandy landing, except instead of tanks, they brought gluten-free brownies and a karaoke machine. I hadn't moved from my spot in 10 minutes. It felt like if I blinked, someone might pitch a bounce house on top of my smoker. Max let out a single disapproving bark as if to say, "Told you HOA Karen was trouble," and deep down, I knew he was right. But how did we get here? How did a private barbecue for 6 morph into this multi-family circus with themed name tags and a conga line? 2 days ago, this was just a peaceful Saturday plan. Then Karen showed up, uninvited, like a nosy fairy godmother with a clipboard instead of a wand. It was Thursday afternoon when she first strutted into my backyard without knocking, heels clicking on the stone path like she was storming a boardroom. I was elbow deep in marinade, lovingly rubbing ghost pepper glaze onto some chicken thighs. My therapy, my sanctuary. She didn't say hello. She just stood with hands on hips, scanning the setup like she was scouting for property brothers. "Oh, this is perfect," she muttered. "Karen?" I blinked, holding a bottle of cayenne mid-shake. She smiled that tight politician smile. "This will be ideal for the HOA summer welcome bash. I've already sent the post on the neighborhood app." I stared. "What bash?" She waved off the question like it was a gnat. "Don't worry, you're the star. It's time we celebrate your grilling skills. We even titled it Lucas's Legendary Cookout." Has a nice ring, right? My mouth opened. Nothing came out. She continued rambling as if this were a scheduled conference call. "The flyers are going out tonight. I've already got 20 RSVPs. Don't worry about food. We told everyone you'd handle it. You're amazing at wings and ribs and sliders. Oh, and I suggested maybe a brisket carving station just to elevate the vibe a little." She paused only to snap a photo of my picnic table. I was still frozen, tongs in one hand, chili flakes in the other, looking like a short-circuited sous chef. "Ooh, Karen," I finally managed. "You can't just throw a block party at my house." Her smile thinned. "Lucas, this is about community. You're always grilling anyway. Why not give back? Plus, HOA events need to feel personal, and your yard just screams approachable." As if that was a justification for hijacking my plans like a party pirate with a Pinterest account. I tried to push back. I really did. I told her I hadn't agreed to anything, that she should take it down, cancel the flyers. Her response, "Oh, don't be that guy, Lucas. Don't ruin the neighborhood spirit. I've already tagged you in the event page. Besides, there's a prize for the best setup, and I submitted your garden lights for the ambiance category." My jaw actually made a clicking noise when it locked from pure rage. And like a villain vanishing into a puff of smugness, she turned and strolled out of my backyard as if she had just blessed me with an opportunity. I didn't follow her. I couldn't. I just stood there, watching Max sniff around the fire pit like he was mentally preparing a controlled burn. That night, I got a taste of what was coming. My phone blew up with messages. "Can I bring gluten-free cornbread? Will there be a mechanical bull? Karen says you're doing your famous honey bourbon glaze. Can't wait." One guy sent a meme of Gordon Ramsay labeled "Lucas prepping for HOA chaos." My blood boiled hotter than the sriracha I left out too long. Then, just before bed, I checked there it was, an official event titled Lucas's Legendary Cookout, HOA Summer Kickoff, sponsored by Sundale Heights Civic Pride Committee. Next to the listing, a vote from HOA board approving the event with a virtual thumbs up icon and a note, code 14.3 waiver bypass granted. I didn't even know there was a code 14.3, but that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about grilled chicken anymore. This was about control. And if Karen wanted a taste of my legendary wings, oh, I'd give her a taste she'd never forget. And trust me, every bite was about to burn. I didn't sleep much that night. While the rest of Sundale Heights was blissfully dreaming of pulled pork sliders and neighborhood sing-alongs, I was in my kitchen sketching out revenge like a mad scientist. This wasn't going to be petty. It wasn't going to be loud. It was going to be hot. The kind of hot that bypasses your taste buds and speaks directly to your soul. If Karen wanted to use my name, my grill, and my time to glorify herself in the HOA newsletter, I'd make damn sure her big moment came with a mouthful of regret. I opened the spice cabinet like I was opening a portal to hell, and there it was, glowing like a warning sign, my emergency stash of Crimson Widow flakes, only for serious use, the kind of heat that makes you question your ancestry. But I needed backup, so I called Rico, college roommate turned hot pepper artisan, currently running a boutique chili farm out in New Mexico called Paint and Petals. Rico picked up on the first ring and didn't even let me finish my rant. "Karen again?" he said, threw you on. "Say less. I'll overnight you a care package. You want Lucifer's tears or napalm on toast?" I told him to surprise me. He cackled like a villain in a Bond movie and promised to throw in a couple of samples labeled not FDA approved, but fun anyway. When I asked him to include something smoky but deceptive, he suggested dragon's breath caramel dust. He ended the call with, "Send me footage. I want to watch HOA drama while I bottle Inferno pickles." I felt better already. The next morning, the package arrived, a plain brown box that smelled like a warning label. I opened it like it might explode. Inside were 4 sealed jars, 3 unlabeled dropper bottles, and a handwritten note that read, "Handle with tongs and Jesus." This was it. Game on. I dusted off my old GoPros, 3 of them still worked, and mounted them in hidden spots around the yard. One in a bird feeder, one in a tiki torch, and one in a fake rock by the grill. I printed signs for the serving table, mild for mortals, and Inferno, extreme eaters only, not for children, pregnant women, or people who value their tongue. Below each tray I placed a waiver, clean, legible, and in bold font. By consuming these wings, you accept full responsibility for any and all consequences, up to and including spontaneous interpretive dance. Then came the sauce. I mixed ghost peppers with scorpion extract, Carolina Reaper concentrate, and a drop of something Rico labeled only as liquid oh no. It sizzled in the pan like it had a soul. The smell alone made Max retreat to the laundry room. I wore gloves, goggles, and a t-shirt that read Certified Pain Dealer. The marinade hissed when it touched the chicken like it didn't want to be there. I tested 1 drop on a toothpick and it took me 5 minutes to recover. Perfect. This wasn't just going to be spicy. It was going to be spiritual. A religious experience. Karen's BBQ was about to become a baptism by fire. That night I rehearsed my role. Friendly, calm, unbothered. I'd play the gracious host, the chill neighborhood guy, while chaos unfolded around me. I'd smile as guests flocked to the serving station, point at the signs, hand out plates, and wait for the first, "Is this supposed to feel like lava?" comment. I even created fake dish labels like Sweet Heat Harmony and Tangy Twilight, just to mess with people's expectations. For my real friends, the ones who were actually invited, I made a small stash of regular wings and hid them under a cooler labeled "Property of Lucas Hands Off." Only they would know the code word. Mild me up, chef. By 1 a.m., everything was in place. The marinade was done, the trays were labeled, the GoPros were charging, and the waiver stack was neatly fanned out like legal poker cards. I took a deep breath, stepped outside, and stared at the empty backyard that would, in just a few hours, become the site of the Great Wing Reckoning. I didn't know exactly how it would unfold, but I knew one thing for sure. Karen had RSVP for glory. But I had just marinated revenge. The morning sun hadn't even cleared the rooftops of Sundale Heights when the first guests started trickling in like it was Black Friday at Costco. A middle-aged couple wearing matching Grill and Thrill aprons wheeled in a cooler the size of a coffin and said cheerfully, "Karen said you'd appreciate extra ice." I smiled and directed them to the side yard. Then came the mom squad, 3 women with strollers, yoga pants, and 3 separate requests for organic ranch. One man brought folding chairs, a lawn flamingo, and a Bluetooth speaker already blaring, "Hot wings, I want a party." I hadn't even lit the grill yet, and my backyard was already halfway to becoming a chili-stuck music festival. By 10:15 IMM, the lawn was chaos. A group of teenagers had set up a Spice Challenge live stream station next to the flower bed. Someone installed a makeshift photo booth with a banner that read Sundale Sizzles 2025. My gnome was wearing sunglasses and a sombrero. Max, ever the introvert, had retreated under the porch with the same expression a veteran gives during fireworks. And then, right on cue, she arrived. Karen, wearing a peach-pink sun hat, an HOA-branded polo shirt, and the look of a woman preparing to take credit for the moon landing. Her clipboard bounced against her hip as she strutted in, headset blinking blue like she was managing Coachella. "Lucas, darling," she called out, "I need your hose near the bouncy castle. The toddlers might get sticky." I just nodded, handed her the nozzle, and watched as she started directing traffic like a cruise ship captain. Let her run the show. She had no idea she was on a countdown to combustion. I positioned myself behind the grill station, now a fortress of steel and secrets. 2 trays were set out front, one marked "Mild for Mortals" and the other "Inferno, Consume at Own Risk." Both had clear signs. Both had waivers right beside them. Nobody read them. Why would they? Karen had hyped this up like it was a Food Network special. "Lucas makes the best wings in Colorado Springs," she boomed to a group of lawn-chaired dads. "He's basically a wizard. I smiled and handed her a plate. Try the tangy Twilight, I said sweetly. She grabbed 3 wings from the Inferno tray, completely ignoring the glowing red label that literally had a fire emoji next to a skull. She took a bite, and time slowed down. Her eyes widened, her jaw locked, a sound escaped her throat that resembled a startled llama. She froze in place as the sauce detonated inside her soul. Her clipboard dropped to the ground. Her face turned a shade of magenta that matched her nail polish. Then, desperately trying to save face, she forced out, good heat, and gave a shaky thumbs up. That lasted about 10 seconds. She began fanning her mouth with a HOA meeting agenda. Her headset short-circuited and started playing hold music. And then she ran full speed to the cooler marked supplies only, yanked it open, and chugged half a gallon of almond milk someone brought for alternative coffee options. Meanwhile, chaos bloomed like a pepper bomb. A kid screamed, "It's fire chicken," and flung his plate into the bushes. A guy ran to the hose and tried to drink directly from it. One woman fell backward into a beanbag chair, eyes watering, yelling, "My lips are on strike." A teen live streaming the challenge shouted, "We've summoned Satan with sauce," as another guest tried to rinse his mouth with diet root beer and cried harder. All around me, people were sweating, coughing, pacing like they could walk off the pain. And I, Lucas Grant, stood there with tongs in hand, dishing out wings like Oprah dished out cars. You get regret. And in the middle of it all, Karen stumbled back to me, mascara streaked, voice raspy, and croaked, "What did you put in those?" I gestured toward the waiver table. "Just ghost peppers. Didn't you read the sign?" I said it gently, like I was helping her understand taxes. She squinted, fanned her face, and muttered something about needing legal advice. I almost offered her another wing. Almost. But instead, I turned to the nearest camera, GoPro disguised as a flower pot, and smiled. I had everything on tape. And the best part, we hadn't even hit the karaoke hour yet. This was only the first act of Karen's spicy downfall. By sunset, the backyard looked like the aftermath of a chili-themed apocalypse. Napkins littered the lawn like snow. Someone had passed out under the folding table with a bottle of ranch, cradled like a teddy bear, and the garden hose had been used so much it started wheezing like a smoker. People trickled out slowly, still coughing and mumbling about lawsuits, while others left giggling like they'd just survived a haunted house. Karen? She vanished the moment her second soda failed to stop the inferno. No goodbyes, no clipboard drop-off, just the echo of her croaky, "It's fine," fading into the wind. I waved at the final group of guests, closed the grill lid, and poured myself a glass of iced tea strong enough to remove paint. I'd done it. I'd hosted the HOA's hottest party, literally. The next morning, I woke up to find 3 things on my porch: a tray of apology brownies from the vegan couple, sorry for assuming you knew tofu, a handwritten note from my friend Nate that just said, "You're my spicy hero," and a large manila envelope with HOA official correspondence urgent stamped in angry red ink. I didn't need to open it to know what it was, but I did, because I enjoy dramatic irony with my breakfast. Inside, a formal complaint drafted by Karen herself. She accused me of willful endangerment, culinary sabotage, and my favorite, psychological warfare via capsaicin. She even claimed the heat had caused her to hallucinate and hear her ex-husband's voice saying, "Told you so." There were phrases like emotional trauma, false advertising, and milk-based injury. It read like someone tried to sue Taco Bell for existential dread. But what really made me laugh was the addendum. Karen cited HOA bylaw March 7th, 14, which I didn't even know existed, claiming that community events over 20 people required board approval and clearly defined risk disclosures. Apparently, she was trying to use this clause against me. The irony? I opened the HOA app and saw the event she created still listed, and guess whose name was on the host line? Not hers, mine. That's when the twist clicked into place like a Tetris block. She didn't get my consent. She used my identity, and now she was trying to flip the script. So I did some digging. Turns out, HOA bylaw 11.2 states that any party misrepresenting host identity or assigning event sponsorship without written confirmation shall be held personally liable for procedural violations. Boom, Karen had just legally Karened herself. I called up Mr. Whitman, the HOA board president, and asked for a hearing. He sighed like a man who had been dealing with Karen complaints since dial-up internet. "We saw the video, Lucas. multiple times, the waiver signs, the labels, even the chalkboard that said, "Eat at your own damn risk." We're not thrilled about the chaos, but she threw the match. I could hear him sipping something from a noisy thermos. "Karen has filed a motion to suspend your community privileges. There's going to be a formal review." I leaned back in my chair. "Good. I have evidence and waivers and witnesses." "Great," he muttered, "because I've got a boardroom full of retirees who live for drama and don't blink during bingo. This is going to be a long night." That evening, I began compiling everything: GoPro footage, screenshots of the flyers, the RSVP messages, and my own printed waiver stack. I edited together a clean highlight reel, nothing fancy, just the facts, complete with timestamps and slow zooms on every label Karen ignored. I even paused the video right when Karen took her first bite and titled the file Karen_VS_wing_volcano, uploaded a private link just for the HOA board. But I had something else planned too, something a little public, because if Karen thought her smear campaign would work, she clearly hadn't learned the most important rule of barbecue warfare. Never bring a clipboard to a spice fight. The HOA hearing was scheduled for Friday at 6:00 p.m. sharp in the community conference room, which was really just a repurposed library annex behind the pool house that still smelled like old sunscreen and printer toner. I arrived 10 minutes early, dressed in jeans and a navy polo, the uniform of a man who knows he's right but doesn't need to flex about it. Nate came with me for moral support and snacks. He brought spicy trail mix. "Thematic," he whispered. Inside, the board members were already seated in their usual positions. Mr. Whitman in the center, looking like a man 3 sizes away from retirement. Ms. Lowry, the enforcer of lawn codes, with a highlighter ready like a weapon. And 2 others whose names I always forget, but whose frowns were consistent enough to recognize. Karen was already there naturally, seated at the far end of the table with a man in a department store suit who looked like he had Googled lawyer clothes that morning. Her arms were crossed, lips pursed, sunglasses perched on her head indoors like an ironic halo. She glanced at me as I entered, but didn't speak. Her face was tightless, like someone angry, and more like someone hoping their plan didn't fall apart on live TV. Mr. Whitman cleared his throat and read the agenda in a tone that could tranquilize livestock. "We're here to address the formal complaint filed by Ms. Karen Delaney regarding the events of last Saturday's cookout and to review possible violations of community standards." He looked at me. "Mr. Grant, would you like to respond?" I didn't say much. I just handed him a folder. Inside were screenshots of Karen's flyers, the HOA group chat where she confirmed the event, a printout of Bylaw 11.2, and my crown jewel, a steel frame of the flyer that listed me as the host in 42-point Comic Sans. Mr. Whitman looked up. "Did you approve this flyer?" "Nope," I said. "Did you give written consent to host the event?" "Also, nope." Karen's lawyer interjected. "Objection?" He didn't object to the flyer at the time. Miss Lowry cut in. "This isn't a courtroom, and objections don't work here, Carl." The man visibly shrank. Then I played the video, just the part where Karen bites the inferno wing, drops her clipboard, and chugs almond milk like it was an exorcism. No commentary, just slow zooms on the sign reading, "Extreme eaters only," and the waiver pile flapping gently in the wind like they were mocking her. The silence was delicious. Mr. Whitman tapped the table. "It's clear the food was labeled, the warnings were visible, and the host identity was misrepresented." Karen suddenly found the ceiling fascinating. Her lawyer mumbled something about spiritual duress. Then came the twist. Ms. Lowry pulled up the HOA bylaws on her tablet and pointed out bylaw March 7th, 14, Karen's favorite one about event approval, but read it aloud. "Any individual or entity who initiates a community-wide event using HOA branding or representation without proper authorization shall bear full liability for any procedural or civil fallout." She glanced at Karen. "That includes printing the HOA logo on an unsanctioned flyer and assigning host roles without consent." Karen blinked once, slowly. After a brief huddle, the board ruled I hadn't violated any community regulations, and Karen's event would be officially recorded as unauthorized. The HOA would issue a warning regarding misuse of community communication tools and potential manipulation of event hosting authority. In short, she lost badly. Karen stood up, knocking her chair over, muttered something about media bias, and stormed out, dragging her pretend lawyer behind her like a malfunctioning Roomba. I stayed seated, calm, satisfied. Mr. Whitman looked at me. We'll be reviewing new guidelines for future events. I nodded. Might I suggest including a spicy food disclaimer template? That got a laugh from at least 2 board members. As the room cleared, Nate nudged me. Well, that was hotter than the wings. I smiled. Little did I know, Karen wasn't done. Not by a long shot. For a few glorious days, the neighborhood was quiet, eerily quiet. No passive-aggressive flyers on the mailboxes, no unsolicited surveys about lawn length, and most shockingly, no Karen. It was like she'd evaporated into a puff of spicy shame. People walked by my house and gave me nods, thumbs ups, even a wink or two. One neighbor left a batch of cookies shaped like tiny fire extinguishers on my porch. Another dropped off a drawing their kid made of Karen the Dragon Lady breathing fire on a chicken wing. The HOA group chat, normally a stream of complaints and vegetable dip recipes, was now filled with reaction memes, gifs of people chugging milk, and someone even changed the chat name to Ghost Pepper Survivor Support Circle. Then came the letter. Hand-delivered, thick cardstock, gold-foiled edges, the kind usually reserved for weddings or cult recruitment. It was an official HOA invitation. This time, however, it wasn't a summons, it was an honor. You are cordially invited to serve as the host and culinary headliner of the Sundale Heights Annual Community Cook-Off. Signed by Mr. Whitman, co-signed by 3 board members, 2 of whom had nearly fainted from spice last week. Apparently, HOA wanted to turn a PR disaster into a redemption arc. I was skeptical. Then I saw the final line, "We trust your judgment." That part almost made me choke on my coffee. A few weeks ago, they were ready to find me into oblivion. Now I was their iron chef of HOA diplomacy. I agreed, but on one condition. I controlled the menu 100%. No interference, no surprise appearances, no HOA-invented slogans like Lupus's legendary leftovers. They accepted. So I got to work. No ghost peppers this time, no pranks, no hidden napalm, no waiver forms, just good food done right. I called Rico, who was disappointed I wasn't going nuclear again, but sent me a mild salsa blend called Remotional Flavor for emotional flavor. I planned a menu that could bring the whole neighborhood together. Dry rubbed ribs, sweet chili wings, the safe kind, veggie skewers, and cornbread that could make a grown man cry. The event was held at the community park with balloons, face painting, and even a bounce house that didn't collapse from shame. My booth was front and center under a white canopy. The sign? Community feast, no surprises, just spice. And next to it, a chalkboard that said, mild, medium, memory safe, no fire graphics, no skulls. Just a little drawing of a pepper wearing sunglasses. People lined up fast. I spotted familiar faces. Folks who'd run for the hose, cursed my name, or tried to sue a milk jug. Now they were back, smiling, joking, wiping their mouths with napkins instead of tears. Then I saw her, Karen. No clipboard, no headset, no entourage, just jeans, a plain top, and a ponytail. She looked human. She didn't cut the line or command the crowd. She waited her turn. When she got to the front, she didn't say much, just, "One plate, please." I handed it over. She nodded, moved to a corner table, and ate quietly. For once, she didn't hover like a storm cloud over the entire event. She just blended in, something I didn't know Karen was capable of. No scene, no lecture, no claim of misrepresented condiments, just silence. Later, the board presented me with a small wooden plaque, Community Builder Award for Resilience, Humor, and Unmatched Grilling. People clapped. Someone in the crowd yelled, "Give this man his own seasoning line." I said a few words, kept it short, thanked the guests, cracked a joke about trauma-informed tacos, and reminded everyone that spice was best served with consent. Got a laugh, got some closure. As the sun started to dip and parents gathered their sugar-stunned children, I caught Karen glancing at me. She gave a small nod. Not smug, not fake, just a nod. Maybe it was over, or maybe, just maybe, she was reloading. Either way, I had a plan and a new secret sauce. The next morning, I found a small envelope taped to my front door. No HOA seal, no aggressive Helvetica font, just a simple note written in blue ink. "You were right. Sorry for everything. Karen." The ink was a little smudged, like she'd hesitated or maybe her hand trembled while writing it. Max sniffed the paper cautiously, then gave a soft bark as if to ask, "Is this a trap?" I stood there for a full minute just staring at it. After everything, flyers, false complaints, almond milk warfare, that single line felt unreal. I didn't know if it was guilt, shame, or strategic silence. But for once, it wasn't a speech, it wasn't a threat, it was human. I pinned the note to my fridge right next to the HOA cook-off plaque. Later that night, I uploaded one final video. Not a roast, not a recap, just a quiet montage titled Flavor Not Fire. It was 5 minutes of smiles, grilled ribs, kids with painted faces, neighbors laughing over lemonade, and one quick frame of Karen sitting alone at her table, chewing slowly, eyes on her plate, no clipboard in sight. Added some mellow jazz and no voiceover, no commentary, just closure. The comment section exploded with messages like, "This is the BBQ healing arc I didn't know I needed," and "Bro made peace with a dragon." One user even photoshopped my face onto a monk holding a bottle of hot sauce. I didn't mind. The next weekend, the street was alive again, but not chaotic. 2 dads played cornhole in their driveways. A few kids rode bikes around chalk obstacle courses. One of the HOA members walked by with a casserole dish and said, "Still think about those wings, but in a good way now." Someone else brought me a t-shirt that read, "Grill, Heal, Repeat." I wore it without irony. Even Max seemed less jumpy when the doorbell rang. Still got the occasional passive-aggressive glare from the soy milk lady, but even she smirked when I handed her a jar of Rico's remorseful mango salsa. Neighborhood peace had returned, not because I burned it all down, but because I knew exactly how much heat was just enough. And Karen, she stayed quiet. No group chats, no flyers. She passed by one morning while I was watering the tomatoes. She didn't stop, didn't smile, but she nodded again. That same small, real nod, and that was enough. Some people apologize with speeches. Karen did it with silence, and for once, I was okay with that. We didn't need a movie ending, just normalcy. That evening, I sat on the porch with Max at my feet, a cold drink in hand, watching the sun dip below the trees like the last embers of a long cookout finally settling down. I scrolled through my food blog's comments. Dozens of new subscribers, a few brand inquiries, and one message that stood out. "You didn't just grill wings, you grilled egos." I chuckled, typed back, "All in the season." Before heading inside, I updated the blog's subtitle. It used to read, "Recipes for One." Now it says, "Recipes for Everyone," with a small line in parentheses below, unless Karen's organizing it. Max barked once in agreement. I raised my glass toward the quiet street and whispered, "To spice, to second chances, and to reading the damn signs." The fire was gone, but the flavor, that was forever. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud or cruel. It's slow-cooked, well-seasoned, and served with undeniable clarity. This wasn't just about wings or HOA politics. It was about boundaries, about consent, and about the quiet power of standing your ground with a smile. Karen thought she could hijack a weekend and a reputation. Instead, she got a front row seat to a masterclass in respectful retaliation in the neighborhood. They didn't just survive the spice. They came out stronger, funnier, more united. So the next time someone steamrolls your plans with entitlement disguised as community spirit, remember, you don't have to shout to win. Just outcook, outthink, and let the cameras roll. Have you ever served karma with a side of hot sauce? Drop your story in the comments, like if you've ever dealt with a Karen, and share this with someone who needs a reminder. Respect is always the secret ingredient.